There is a 5-gallon bucket sitting behind my woodshed. It is half full of rainwater, a handful of grass clippings, and one heaping spoonful of a powder you can buy at any hardware store for $17. Every female mosquito within 100 yards of my farmhouse is flying toward that bucket right now to lay her eggs. And every single larva that hatches in that water is going to die within 24 hours, long before it ever gets its wings. It will not harm my honeybees. It will not harm the butterflies in my wife's flower garden. It will not harm my dog, my chickens, the songbirds that come to the feeder, or the children running barefoot through the yard at dusk. It only kills one thing. I keep 11 hives of honeybees on this farm. My wife tends a half-acre of flowers and herbs that the pollinators depend on, and I have not been bitten by a mosquito at my own kitchen table in 9 years. We have no electric bug zapper. We have no spray truck driving down the road. We have no chemical company on retainer. I am going to show you exactly what I do, in the order I do it, with what it costs and where to put it. Then I am going to tell you the part that should make you uneasy, which is that the pest control companies in your town have known about this for 40 years, and most of them still spray your yard with something that kills the honeybees right along with the mosquitoes. Because the honeybee safe option does not refill itself every month at $200 a visit. Stay with me. By the end of this, you will know how to clear the mosquitoes out of your own property this weekend for less than the cost of one professional spray treatment, and your bees will thank you for it. Let me start with what most folks get wrong, because if you do not understand this, none of the rest will work. Mosquitoes do not come from the air. They do not come from the woods. They do not blow in on the wind from your neighbor's pond. Every mosquito biting you in your own backyard was born in your own backyard. In water, in standing water, and not very much of it. A bottle cap of water held in the crease of an old tarp is enough. A clogged gutter holding half a cup of rainwater for 4 days is enough. The little dish under your potted geranium is enough. The little dish under your potted geranium is enough. A female mosquito will lay between 1 and 300 eggs at a time, and she can do it in less water than you can hold in your cupped hand. That is the whole game right there. If you let standing water sit on your property for more than 4 days, you are running a mosquito hatchery. If you eliminate it, or, and this is the trick, if you bait it so the larvae cannot survive, you have solved the problem at the source. This is what we have always done. My grandfather walked the property every Saturday morning in summer with an empty coffee can. He tipped out every saucer, every tarp pocket, every old bucket, every wheelbarrow that had collected water during the week. He called it walking the line. And in the places he could not drain, the low spots in the pasture, the cattle trough, the rain barrel by the back door, he had another trick. The modern way is to try and kill the mosquito after it is hatched and flown into your face. We kill it in the water before it ever has wings. Our way takes about an hour a month. Their way takes a monthly bill and a foggy yard that smells like a chemistry classroom. Here is what I want you to do this weekend. You will need 3 things. A 5-gallon bucket, dark colored, orange, red, brown, or black, but not white. I will explain why in a minute. You will also need a few handfuls of grass clippings or dead leaves and 1 container of something called mosquito bits. They will be in the lawn and garden section of any hardware store, sometimes near the pond supplies. $17, give or take. You start by setting your bucket somewhere out of the way, behind a shed, under a hedge, behind your barn, not next to where you eat dinner. You want the mosquitoes drawn away from you, not toward you. You fill the bucket about halfway with water. Rainwater is best, but tap water will do. Then you toss in a handful of grass clippings, a few dead leaves, maybe a twig or 2. Nothing fancy, just enough to make the water look a little dirty, a little swampy. Why dark-colored? Because a female mosquito, when she is hunting for a place to lay her eggs, is looking for water that looks like the dark, shaded, still pools where her species evolved over millions of years. A bright white bucket in full sun does not look like home to her. A dark bucket in the shade does. The color matters, trust me on this. Why the grass clippings? Because as those clippings break down, they release the same compounds that decaying vegetation releases in a natural pond. It is the scent that tells a female mosquito this is a safe, nutrient-rich place to leave her young. You are not making a swamp. You are making a counterfeit swamp. It is the most attractive piece of real estate on your property as far as a mosquito is concerned. Now, here is the part that turns the counterfeit swamp into a graveyard. You take one heaping spoonful of the mosquito bits and you sprinkle it across the top of the water. That is all. You do not stir, you do not measure, just one spoonful floating on the surface. What you have just put in there is something called BTI. The full name is Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, which is a mouthful, so I do not bother to say it. It is a soil bacterium, not a chemical, not a poison in the way folks usually use the word. It is a living thing that exists naturally in soil all over the world. What makes it remarkable is that it targets exactly one group of insects. When a mosquito egg hatches in your bucket, a tiny wiggling larva emerges. It lives in the water for about a week, filtering food, before it can grow wings and fly. The moment that larva swallows a microscopic particle of the BTI bacterium, the protein disrupts its digestive system. Within 24 hours, the larva is gone. It works on mosquito larvae, black fly larvae, and fungus gnat larvae. It does not work on anything else. Not on bees, not on butterflies, not on dragonflies, which actually help by eating adult mosquitoes. It does not harm fish, frogs, songbirds, or your dog if she happens to drink from the bucket. The reason it is so specific comes down to basic biology. The gut of a mosquito larva is highly alkaline, and the natural protein in BTI only activates in that exact chemical environment. A honeybee's gut chemistry is completely different. So is yours. So is your dog's. Now, a word of common sense. While the Environmental Protection Agency has certified BTI as exceptionally safe for humans and animals, you should never drink the bucket water yourself. Stagnant water left outdoors will naturally collect wild bacteria and pathogens from the air. We are building a targeted biological trap, not preparing a beverage. But as a control method, the biological safety is absolute. This is not experimental technology. Public health programs have relied on BTI on a massive scale for decades. Environmental agencies drop it from aircraft over protected wetlands because it is the most targeted, ecologically gentle tool available. So why is your local lawn care company not using it? The answer is simple. BTI is cheap. It is sold over the counter, and once you know how to use it, you do not need a service. A $17 container of bits will last a homeowner the entire summer. A monthly chemical spray contract can easily cost $60 to $80 per visit. You can do the math on which one the commercial companies would rather sell you. One spoonful of mosquito bits floating on a half-full bucket of swampy water will continuously destroy new larvae for about 2 to 4 weeks. After that, the natural bacteria break down and you simply sprinkle in another spoonful. That is the entire maintenance schedule. But to make this system truly protect your whole property, you have to understand scale. One bucket behind a single shed is not going to clear a half-acre lot. You need a perimeter. I recommend at least 3 buckets for an average yard, placed on different sides of your house. Always place them away from your patio, your porch, or where the children play. You are drawing the breeding females away from your living spaces. I put one behind my woodshed on the north side, one near the bee yard on the east, and one behind my wife's herb garden on the west. I tuck that last one behind a large rosemary bush so it stays out of sight. My wife has clear ideas about how the homestead should look, and I have learned over the years that some secrets are best kept behind a green bush. If you have a flower bed where you cannot easily hide an open bucket, there is a simple way to make it look neat while keeping it effective. Take the plastic lid that came with the bucket. Screw 4 short wooden dowels into the underside to act as small legs, then rest the lid back on top of the bucket. It looks like a little hat. This simple cover stops heavy summer rain from diluting your mixture, but leaves a 2-inch gap all around so the mosquitoes can easily fly in underneath to lay their eggs. It costs about $3 in dowels and takes 5 minutes with a screwdriver. I do not have electricity on this farm, and the old hand drill my father gave me handles the job just fine. For the areas where you can't place a bucket, like a roadside ditch, a low spot in the pasture that holds water after a heavy storm, or an old cattle trough, there is an even simpler option. The same bacterium is sold in the shape of small floating brown rings. The boxes call them mosquito dunks. You simply toss one in. Each dunk covers about 100 square feet of standing water and slowly dissolves over 30 days. I keep a box of them in my mudroom, and I drop one into the rain barrel by the back porch on the first day of every month from May through September. And here is the single biggest blind spot on most properties: your gutters. If your gutters have even a thin layer of fallen leaves or pine needles, they are trapping water. It does not take a deep pool. Just a damp, muddy layer of organic debris is enough to breed thousands of mosquitoes right above your head. If you climb up and sprinkle a handful of mosquito bits directly into your gutters every few weeks during the damp season, you will shut down what is likely the largest active breeding ground on your land. You will shut down what is likely the largest active breeding ground on your land. Most homeowners spend hundreds of dollars spraying their lawns while the real nursery is operating quietly on their roofs. Now, before we look at the adult population, let us talk about the most important part of the routine, the part you cannot buy in a store. It is walking your property. Once a week during the warm months, in the cool of the morning, take an empty can and walk your entire yard. Look at the saucer under every potted plant. Check the wheelbarrow leaned against the barn, the unused dog bowl near the kennel, the deep folds of the tarp covering your firewood, or the plastic toys left on the grass. If you have an old pile of tires, get rid of them. Tires are the most efficient mosquito breeding vessels ever created by man. They trap heat, hold water, and are nearly impossible to drain naturally. Dump every puddle you find. Turn the containers upside down. Walk the line. Agricultural experts call this source reduction, and it is more than half the battle. You could set out 50 buckets of BTI, but they will not save you if you leave 5 hidden pockets of clean rainwater breeding new generations nearby. It takes 5 minutes a week. The pest begins in the water. End it there. Now, let us assume you have walked the line, treated your gutters, and set your buckets. That successfully halts the breeding cycle. But you still have a temporary problem. There are adult mosquitoes flying around your yard right now. They were born last week, and they are actively searching for blood so they can lay one last batch of eggs before they die. They are not going to wait for your bucket. They are going to find you on the porch. To handle the active adults safely, we use the second part of our system. It is completely safe for pollinators, costs very little, and takes 1 afternoon to apply. We use pure, concentrated essential oils, the actual extracts of cedarwood, rosemary, clove, garlic, lemongrass, and peppermint. These are not synthetic fragrances. They are concentrated plant defense compounds that vegetation has developed over thousands of years to protect itself from insects. You can buy these pre-mixed in bottles that attach directly to your garden hose, but I will tell you frankly, those hose end sprayers do not work well. They dilute the mixture too much, spray it too wide, and empty the bottle far too quickly. Instead, use a simple manual pump-up garden sprayer, the kind you carry on your shoulder with a wand. It costs about $40, requires no electricity, and will last a lifetime if you rinse it out after use. Fill the tank about 3/4 full with clean water. Shake your bottle of concentrated essential oils thoroughly because the heavy plant extracts tend to settle at the bottom. Pour in the amount recommended on the label, usually about 4 to 8 ounces for a 4-gallon tank. Pump it up, shake the tank to mix, and you will see the water turn a cloudy, milky white. Now, here is the application trick that most people get wrong. Do not spray the open air. The oils will drift away on the breeze, evaporate within minutes, and go to waste. You must target where the mosquitoes actually live. During the hot daylight hours, mosquitoes do not fly. They cannot survive the direct sun. It dries them out. Instead, they rest in the shade, clinging to the cool, damp underside of leaves in your hedges, your bushes, and your tall ornamental grass. They hide under the eaves of your porch, inside wooden lattice panels, and deep within your woodpile. Walk slowly around your yard and spray those specific resting places. Direct the nozzle upward to coat the undersides of the foliage. Spray the dark space beneath your deck, the underside of your patio furniture, and the wooden structure of your porch. By treating these cool, shaded sanctuaries, you target the entire adult population while they sleep. But there is one critical rule you must follow. Do not spray flowers that are in full bloom. While these natural plant oils will not kill a honeybee, they are highly aromatic. If you coat the blossoms, the strong scent will mask the natural fragrance of the nectar and repel your pollinators. We want to invite the bees to the garden, not turn them away. I can spray my entire farmstead, the porch, the foundation, the shrubs around the kitchen door, and the fence line in about 45 minutes. The natural barrier lasts about 2 to 3 weeks. If a heavy summer thunderstorm washes the leaves clean, I simply take the sprayer out and do it again the next dry morning. It costs less than an hour of physical work and a few dollars in natural oils. As you begin to work with these natural patterns, you will find that other pieces of the ecosystem start falling into place. In our community, you will often see tall white wooden structures mounted on 15-foot poles set high in the middle of open pastures. These are purple martin houses. There is a common belief that a single purple martin will consume 2,000 mosquitoes every day. To be completely accurate, that is a bit of an exaggeration. Biologists who have examined the diet of these birds have found that mosquitoes are only a small portion of what they catch. Martins hunt high in the open sky during the bright hours of the day, while mosquitoes prefer to fly low in the shade and emerge mostly at dusk when the birds are returning to their nests. But do not let that discourage you from putting up a birdhouse. Purple martins are voracious predators of beetles, moths, and larger flying insects that damage your vegetable garden. More importantly, they are part of a larger design. A yard that is active and hospitable to songbirds, dragonflies, bats, and frogs is a yard where pests cannot easily establish a foothold. When you stop drenching your grass in synthetic chemicals, these natural predators return. Dragonflies will patrol your lawn during the day, and bats will take over the night shift. The entire local ecosystem begins working with you rather than against you. There is another traditional practice my grandmother used every evening at dusk when the family gathered on the back porch after the day's work was done. She took an old tin can, punched a few small nail holes in the sides for ventilation, and placed a small piece of glowing hardwood charcoal at the bottom. On top of that coal, she would drop a handful of dried herbs from her kitchen garden: rosemary, sage, dried lavender, and sometimes a sprig of wild mugwort. She would let them smolder slowly. The thin, fragrant smoke that drifted across the porch did not smell like a chemical repellent. It smelled like a warm kitchen during the holidays. But to mosquitoes, that smoke is an impassable barrier. It will keep a 10-foot circle around your porch completely clear for as long as the herbs are smoldering. You can easily do the same on your patio tonight. All you need is a small ceramic dish, a self-lighting charcoal disc from the store, and a handful of dried rosemary or sage from your pantry cupboard. The smoke is gentle. It does not disturb the honeybees, who are already safe inside their hives for the night, and it allows you to enjoy the evening in peace. I believe we need to look at the larger picture of how we manage our land. Mosquitoes are more than just an annoyance. They are a genuine health concern. They carry diseases that affect our families and our livestock. It is a problem we must take seriously. But the solution we have been sold, to call a company, sign a contract, and let them spray our yards every month with a broad-spectrum chemical, is short-sighted. Those synthetic sprays do not select their targets. They kill the beneficial insects, the wild pollinators, and the soil life along with the pests. The honeybee population across this country has been in steady decline for 20 years. Hives are collapsing, and wild pollinators are disappearing from suburban neighborhoods. There are many complex reasons, but one of the most direct is the routine use of cosmetic chemical sprays in residential yards. You cannot poison the pests without poisoning the helpers if you use a tool that kills everything it touches. Every traditional beekeeper I know has the same quiet frustration when they see the commercial spray trucks driving through our rural townships in the summer. Those treatments may offer temporary relief to one homeowner, but they do it by damaging the livelihood of the hives nearby and fracturing the local food chain. BTI does not harm bees. Natural plant oils do not harm bees. Walking your property and tipping over standing water does not harm anything except the pests. The entire system I have described, the dark buckets, the biological bits, the natural oils, and the evening herb smudge, costs less than a single month of a professional chemical contract. It takes one weekend to set up, and you can manage it yourself for the rest of your life with no ongoing fees, no toxic runoff, and no ecological harm. We did not develop these methods because we were trying to be clever. We developed them because we lived close to the land and had to find solutions that worked without destroying the very things we relied on for our survival. When you cannot rely on industrial chemicals, you learn to look closely at how nature operates, and you find the simple levers that solve the problem at its roots. The mosquito problem is fundamentally a water problem, and a water problem is something you can solve with $17, a 5-gallon bucket, and an hour of mindful attention. So as the weekend approaches, here is your plan. Walk your property with an empty can. Check the quiet corners, the tarps, the plant saucers, and the old buckets. Tip them over. That is your source reduction, and it costs nothing but your time. Set out 3 dark-colored buckets in the shaded, quiet corners of your yard. Fill them halfway with water, toss in a handful of grass clippings to create the scent of a natural pond, and float a spoonful of mosquito bits on the surface. If you have rain barrels or low drainage areas, drop in a biological dunk. If you have the time, fill a simple pump sprayer with water and a natural plant-based oil mixture and coat the cool, shaded undersides of the leaves where the adult pests spend their days. By next Saturday evening, you can sit on your porch in the cool of the day. The air will be clear, your honeybees will still be visiting the clover, the butterflies will be resting on the lavender, and you can watch the dusk settle over a yard that is healthy, safe, and quiet.